What up, y'all? My name's Michael. Today is 30th of March 2018, and here is what I've been learning. One thing I've been learning is as I've been sitting here, I was like, oh my god, my hair is going so thin. Um, which just happens when you get older, I suppose. Well, for some of us. Happened to Jude Law, happened to Prince William. You can still be quite a catch and have thinning hair, I suppose. Um, so I've been reading from Bertrand Russell, who's one of my favorite philosophers, if not my favorite philosopher. The philosophy of mathematics and logic, and as wonderful a writer as he is, and as clear as he was able to make some of that stuff for me, which was not clear for me at all before, it's not something that I feel confident enough to restate in public. So I'll have to spend a little bit more time trying to figure out what that means before I do that. I've also been reading some William James, his essays on radical empiricism. Really phenomenal, I would say, for anybody who's interested in consciousness. He basically says in these essays that everything in the universe is made out of pure experience. It's a really cool way of looking at things because it makes sense of a lot of stuff that wouldn't make sense otherwise. And in a way, he makes it all about, it's all about the present moment and about interconnection of experiences, and that these interconnections are also themselves experiences, and that's part of what makes up the world and what makes up consciousness. And it's quite yogic, and if you want to, whatever that word means, yogic. But if yogic means anything like an appreciation of the power of the present moment, then you could say that that William James's essays in radical empiricism are quite yogic. But the one book I've read this week is actually a reread, and I almost never reread books because I'm always interested in learning something new or what somebody else has to say about something that I've been learning about. But I've been thinking a lot about this book, which I read for the first time a year ago. And I thought, you know what, it's about time to read the book again because it was just so phenomenal. And many of you have heard me talk about it, and hopefully, I think some of you probably have even read it. But it's this book, Other Minds, The Octopus and the Evolution of Intelligent Life. And it's by Peter Godfrey-Smith, and he's a philosopher of science, and he's also an avid scuba diver. And he's a pretty wonderful underwater photographer too. Here's some photographs of the cool, colorful cuttlefish. And these cuttlefish are, they also feature pretty prominently in the book in terms of their ability to change color so magnificently. This book is about so much. It's about octopuses and the cool things that they can do, like being able to open a jar from the inside, and they can use coconut shells, for example. Like if they find a coconut shell that's split in half, they'll like grab these two halves of the coconut shell, and then they'll carry them back to their den. And then sometimes if they want to go out for some extra protection, they'll carry the two halves of the coconut shell out with them in, one in each arm, and then they'll walk around on the rest of their arms. And then if they need to hide, then they'll like jump inside this coconut and hide inside, which is incredible because like there are some stories of animals using tools and things like that, but being able to pick something up and save it for later because it's obvious that it's useful in that way is, it's just remarkable. And they're incredible. 3/5 of their neurons are in their arms rather than in their kind of the brain that's in their head. So they're really, talk about embodied consciousness. Like this is one of the reasons I love octopuses so much. So I'm just going to read to you a little passage from this book. It has long appeared that captive octopuses can recognize and behave differently toward individual human keepers. Stories of this kind have been coming out of different labs for years. Initially, it all seemed anecdotal, but in one lab, an octopus took a dislike to one member of the lab staff for no obvious reason, and whenever that person walked by, on the walkway behind the tank, she received a jet of half a gallon of water in the back of her neck. Shelley Adamo of Dalhousie University had one cuttlefish who reliably squirted streams of water at all new visitors to the lab and not at people who were often around. In 2010, an experiment confirmed that giant Pacific octopuses can indeed recognize individual humans and can do this even when the humans are wearing identical uniforms. So they recognize people by their faces, which is what kind of brings me to the point. And I mean, as fascinated as I am about the cool stuff that octopuses can do, the reason I reread this book is that it's about the evolution of consciousness, right? The evolution of minds, because the octopus and the human being last shared a common ancestor 600 million years ago. And that common ancestor was like a little tiny worm or something like that probably didn't have much in the way of a nervous system or anything like that. But over the last 600 million years, that worm split off into multiple branches, but ending up on parts of those divergences are human beings on the one hand and octopuses on the other 7 hands. And consciousness emerged in both of these creatures. Minds emerged in both of these creatures. Human beings are more closely related to starfish than to octopuses. And yet, octopuses have evolved minds, have evolved the ability to recognize human beings, and of course human beings can recognize octopuses. There's a mutual kind of appreciation of the fact that the other being has consciousness. And the fact that minds on 2 different evolutionary tracks have evolved completely separately from basically nothing, have evolved in a way that has enabled them to recognize each other, to see that there's obviously something of interest, something more notable than whatever is going on in the rest of the environment. The fact that minds have come about, as I read this book again, it really struck me how beautiful that is and how amazing life is and how amazing minds are. And it really gave me an incredible sense of appreciation for the fact that I am a conscious being that is able to have the kinds of experiences that I'm able to have. And I don't think I feel grateful enough about that enough of the time. But I'd really like to do more of that. Thank you very much for being with me. I hope you all have a good Friday. little religious joke there. Please go forth and be incredibly wonderful to each other. Thank you.